All right, NBA trade deadline is over, and we got more complimentary pieces after this. I was like, I did a couple that I've like we sort of had in between that I ain't talk about, and then a couple new ones today. Did not get no KD move, but to be honest, I really didn't suspect it once Jimmy sort of landed. Um, After that, I was like, I don't really know. Let's say anybody big, I was like that could be sort of like dealt with. I was like, I didn't think Zion was going to be dealt with, or like that. You know what? Segue to Brandon Ingram going to the Raptors. I was like, I didn't see that coming. That was sort of a wild play to me. It was sort of out of the ordinary. Now it's not something that I don't think it can't make sense later on because the Raptors are just sort of a team that just seem like they just getting pieces. But it's like okay, so it's like if y'all going to sign Brandon Ingram to some type of extension, and it's like it's a team gonna be built around him, where you got him, Barrett, and Quickly, and all them. There, I was like, now granted, they're in the East, so I was like, I can Brandon Ingram be strong enough with that group in order to make something in the East? Possibly. I was like, I think his talent is still there, even though he's been knick-knacked, patty-whacked a couple of times throughout the season or whatever, but I think that he can be. But I was like, also, if you're the Raptors, it's just a move to sort of make a move. I was like, I think he's not going to be on the line the same way in order to get the big contract he wants. So I think that sort of works out in their favor. But he still is on like 25, 26 or whatever. Which when I was reading like the thing about it, someone was like, he's now on the timeline of the Raptors, and I was like, how? I was like, all them dudes are around the same age. Like they're not. None of them dudes are young anymore over there. Barrett and Quickly, it just seems like that, but none of them are young. So I think I actually think it's fine though when I was like I was like Scotty Barnes as well. That's like okay, you sort of have to phase and sort of just see what sort of sticks. So I'm like, I'm not actually mad at it or whatever. I was like, to me, I was like, you still got a couple of dudes that you can flip if you don't want to really keep them past that. But the problem is now you're sort of at the spot where it's like Barnes at a mad contract, and you got Barrett on there, and then you decide quickly last year that you got a lot of dudes that are really signed up for basically maybe a play-in type of team, considering where some of the other teams are at the bottom and stuff like that. I mean, cause they ain't gonna do nothing this year or whatever. I'm talking about like next year, going into next year. So that's really a more of the one that just sort of like make you sort of scratch your head of like what's the plan here. But at the same time, like I said, if you ain't really got a future, might as well try something. But yeah, I didn't. I was like, but I did not think Zion Williams was going to get traded. I was like, he doesn't have. I was like, they can say what they want to, but I don't think they was willing to trade him in the same way that I think a lot of people would be interested in Zion. I just don't think that he's just more valuable to the Pelicans for what they will probably want as the trade assets. I know we just went through the whole Luka thing, but I just think that they're more. I was like, I think they're more afraid of like what if he does turn it around more so than in Luka and AD and what they got with that one. Um, I was like, or not, something that did come up before that Jimmy Butler knew. I was like, one is Caleb Martin going to the Mavericks. I was like, I like that for them. I like that for the Mavericks, just because I was saying that they just need another person, another guy. And I'm not saying that this is going to be like he's the dude to take him over the top, but he is sort of a player in a way to me of like he's not. I was like he's not. I'm not saying he's like Derrick Jones, but I'm saying that it's like if you got any crazy offensive put from Derrick Jones, you'd be like, oh man, this is happy. But I was like, but with Caleb Martin, I'm like, you got somebody you could play small. I was like, you can play him where you can play him at the 4. You can play him at the 3. I was like, he also somebody that also does better in the playoffs, and he also sort of seems to do better once you have other talented people around him, because guess what? They're going to take the major part of the defensive role that's going to leave him open, and we all know that he can score if he does have that opportunity. And once he gets hot, he gets hot. Don't get me wrong. I was like, he can also sort of vanish at the same time, but I think that's fine with the Dallas team, where just like I was like, I said they sort of needed another scoring type of person. I was like, he's streaky, but I think that's fine. I was like, you're not relying on him for offense. You're just hoping that he just has one of those. He can basically get you a game in the playoffs. And I was like, that's sort of a person that you can kind of get. Um, I was like, I guess I was like, also I'm gonna talk about basically his brother. I was like, I know I was talking about the ones before Jimmy, but whatever. I was like, Cody Martin is basically going to the Phoenix Suns for Yusuf Nurkic. Um, I was like, well, I was like, the Hornets getting usage. I was like, you just need a big man. That's all it is, a body at this point. But I do think Cody Martin can help that Phoenix team. I was like, you got another dude about 6'7". I was like that defend. I was like hit occasional threes. It might be in a better. I was like, and also too, what I've learned about any of the Hornet players, which I'll get to in a minute, is that they do better when they've left the Hornet. They're sort of a lot more productive. And I think him being on a team that can actually, work it out with when they already got strong players like Booker and Durant and even Bradley, that he could complement that compared to a Hornets team that just be around. And saying that the reason the Hornets got Nurkic is because they gave up Mark Williams the other day for don't connect. Something I didn't see, although I did think about like, oh, could the Hornets trade Williams? I was like, nah, because he's too young of an asset. But they did anyway. And they did get connect. And I was like, I'm not mad at this just because Williams is a guy that got a really high ceiling. But I was like, he's been injured held just as much as a lot of the Hornet down players. That is like we all know that he's gonna go to the Lakers and he's gonna be, I was like, at worst buying them. But at best, I was like he could develop a whole game to where I was like, cause I was like buying Tyson Chandler probably his floor, but I was like his potential ceiling. I was like in high. I was like, I don't know if he'll ever be like shooting threes and nothing like that. But I was like, at some point, I was like, I think that he could have a good round of basket type of game. And lobs, he's going to get that a lot with, especially with Luka, who's like to do that. So I think he'll end up reaching somewhat of his potential there, but he's just been hurt so much that it's like I sort of got this. Whereas like I actually like to connect going to the Hornets. I was like, I think the Hornets need a lot more established players. At this point, I was like, LaMelo is. I was like, he'll be injured and some playing and sometimes not. I was like, you got Brandon Miller there. I was like, then the rest of them, I was like, I really think they should sort of get off Bridges and all of them just because it's like they're not. Ever since that, when he was suspended and stuff like that, he ain't really been back to the same. I was like, the team. I was like, but connect. You know what he is at the least. That's sort of why I was surprised the Lakers gave him up, because at the lead you know that he's a guy that can shoot threes and sort of get his own shot because he's a little bit more on the older side. But you at least know what he is, and if he improves a little bit past that, then hey, that's extra baloney. Yeah, so I was surprised at it, but I do actually like the trade for both teams. In the sense that I was like, and to me, I was like, that was the move I think the Lakers needed to at least now you could sort of say like, okay, I wouldn't be surprised if they did sort of get to the conference championship, because if you do get him right, then you got the big man. Jackson Hayes go back to a bench role. And I was like, you got somebody to protect the rim. I was like, that way you ain't got to rely on too many of not having the wing defender that you want. I will also say too, I would not be a little bit surprised buyout market. I like Marcus Smart went to the Wizards. I'm just saying, I pick him up. He could guard 1 through 3. I pick him up, and sometimes and a little bit of forward. I was like, so that's somebody I would keep an eye out for if I was the Lakers, because I was like, I know they got Vanderbilt, but he can't shoot, and they got Finney Smith. So, but you still need, and you got Rui, and he's a big body, and I was like, he's sort of better defender, but I was like, he's all right. Kyle Kuzma for the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, at first I was like, I don't know, but once again, I think this is fine. He'll be the third guy but I was like, but when he's the third guy, when you have a Giannis and a Dame, I think that's a lot different. Now we're gonna have to see how much can he get back to when he was like with the Lakers and being a better part of a system compared to the Wizards, where it's just like, hey, you're on the Wizards, do whatever you want to, man, get them shots up. What I do think is helpful, that's like he did have the time before LeBron, then he had the time to learn how to win, then he had the Wizards. So I was like, I do think that sort of helps of like being, basically it's like young, being able to do what you want to. Then I was like being in the culture with some with a lot of like rules and all. I was like not rules, but I was like able to get discipline and all that other stuff. Then going to the Wizards where it's like it's not that, but he gets a chance to be the guy, and now you get to sort of play with whatever your skill limit is and your ceiling is and stuff like that. To where it's like now when you get onto a team that also has a structure, I was like, you sort of know what you can do and can't do, but you also know what the limits are. I was like, so you got to develop with a little bit more free mind with it. Um, but when you got those two, you got basically one of the best players in the league. That I was like, him being the third wheel, he just got to basically be consistent. I was like, enough. I was like, in a way that sort of Middleton was. I was like, and maybe he'll play better once he's actually in this type of environment. With that. Now, some smaller moves, I was like, because I talked about, I was like, some smaller moves that I sort of liked or took notice of. I was like, Davion Mitchell going to the Heat. I just sort of like that for the Heat. He just sort of fits where just like, he sort of knows his role. I was like, he's going to play defense. He's another guard that doesn't need the ball. And, Miami will try to figure out the possible way to get the most out of him as well. I was like, I just like that. It just seemed like a Miami type of fit. I was like, DeAndre Hunter going to the Cavs, I like that as well too, because I was like, their hole has been basically their three spot, but he's also a big kind of three, with being like 6'8". But I was like, he's a big dude, and I was like, that sort of helps when you got such a small backcourt. I was like, he's been able to find his way a lot more this year of like the guy that everybody sort of thought he was going to be after he sort of signed that contract, of getting some of his, find his own shot, and his shooting streak or whatever. I know he done sort of like died down a bit now, but I was like, to me, when you already on the Cavs, I was like, he done already had to find his role when you got like a Trae Young and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, he'll fit in fine here. He'll know what sort of to do. I was like, it gives him another guy that can sort of score points and also I would like be a big body, I think, for him. And I was like, considering that I was like, to me, I was like, and it just helps. I think that when you go against Boston, you just got another wing player, and I think that's what basically they're trying to do. It's like they got the bigs, they got the scoring guards. I was like, but they need another guy on the wing. So like between him and I don't think they really gave up much for him. I was like, I think they still got Strus and stuff like that. So I was like, I think they'll be good with that. Bogdanovich, I really wish he would have gone to like Golden State. That's basically where I was sort of trying to get him to go to. I was like, there's other teams I think that could have also did well of getting him, whether it was like the Mavs or the Lakers or something like that. But he went to the Clippers, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. I was like, that's fine. I was like, the Clipper. That's like this does also seem like a Clipper move where it's like I feel like with the other teams he'd be playing a part. Where it's like here, I was like he's gonna be part of something bigger. But I was like, you got Harden and you got the Claw. I was like Kawhi there. That I was like he'll fit seamlessly in there. He doesn't need the ball to get his own shot. I was like he's a shooter to where I'm like, I don't care what his numbers is or how old he is. I was like, you sort of seen him where he's in the Olympics, and when he just like you give him the minutes, you give him the time. I think he's a guy that can give you 15 easy. He's a 3-point shooter, but I was like, I don't think he's not just a standstill shooter or nothing like that. I was like, he could do shooting off the dribble and things. So I was like, I think he'll work fine with him. And I was like, to me, he's one of those small little pieces to a team that I was like that can. I don't think it would give the Clippers that bump like it would some of the other teams that could have traded for him. But I do think that he is like a piece that you sort of get that does add an extra part to your amount of floor, not necessarily to your ceiling. Yeah, and I was like, the only one I'll point this out because he's sort of sort of a name in general is just Jonas Valanciunas going to the Sacramento. I don't really get that one. It's sort of odd to me, I was like, I was like, I guess they could play him as a bonus at the same time too. I know they want a backup center, but why you want this backup center for that team? or whatever, unless you're going to sort of play big man or whatever. Because Valanciunas will step out and shoot threes every now and then, so you ain't got to worry about floor space. And he is a better defender and big man than what they have. So I was like, I guess I see that working, but I know a couple other ones of like Kevin Porter Jr. going to Milwaukee. And I think sort of also with Kuzma that you just sort of want to get more young and athletic. And I was like, so to me, I was like, he's more of an attacking point guard and stuff like that. Then I think that might help them out. I was like a bit. I was like, it won't hurt. I was like, it's nothing. I was like, to me, that was like a low risk move for him, stuff like that. But no, I was like, but I think now with enough of the shakeup of who we thought have seen move, that I was like, some of these little smaller part moves I was like I think are good. I was like, I think it does suck that you ain't seen no move out of Denver. I was like, I know they really couldn't really do too much, but I was like them, or even something like Minnesota. I was like a couple teams that just like, oh man, if you just, I was like, there ain't nobody you could have snatched up or whatever. And I was like, we'll see what sort of gets in the buyout market, but I don't think it's gonna be nothing crazy in that type of way or whatever. But I was like, but until then, I was like, then we'll be able to see whatever the full picture for all this stuff is. Well, yeah. So other than that, recap. Peace. I'm out.